9 days ago.
All right, we're gonna go ahead and call this meeting to order. This is Public Works Building. It's Tuesday, it's Tuesday. I have a Tuesday on there. It is Tuesday, the 30th, at 6 p.m. And we're here to have a workshop on the budget. So would you call the meeting to order and take roll, please?
Okay, Mayor Wolf,
Here.
Mr. Smith,
Here.
Ms. Hamilton.
Here.
Mr. Adams,
Here.
and Mr. Linderman.
Here.
Let me just start the meeting with making sure everybody understands that this is a meeting of consensus. There's no voting here. We're just gonna all talk and try to figure out what's the best way to approach our millage rate, our budget, and individual departments. And then we're gonna task Mel with taking his notes and whatever notes we have to give him. And hopefully coming, and after this meeting, then we're gonna set a starting millage rate, and then we will allow Mel to go back to the office and start to work on things, and all through the next couple of weeks, we'll probably be having a lot, individual council people and myself, as we've been doing up to this point, we'll continue to meet with Mel and have conversations to see what we can do about lowering the millage rate. We're not gonna raise it after we set it tonight. It's gonna be set. And then the only thing we can do is go down. And I hope that's the intent of the council want to do. We'll see how that all works out, number-wise. I want to just say two things before we get started, because I don't want to have a conversation about it if we don't have to. Number one, I believe there's a consensus at this table not to build on 37th Street construction, and definitely not to build any employee residence on top. I haven't taken a vote, but I know, looking at social media and seeing what I see, I don't think there's a real appetite for it. And somebody else could talk about that if they want to at the table, but that's my opinion. The other thing is, I don't think the council has an appetite for changing what we've been doing over the last few years on our CDs. We've been doing real well, and I think we're probably going to maintain that. That would be my vote as we get to that. But those are two areas that were of concern over social media and a lot of conversation in our community. And I just wanted to give you my side of it. Any council want to comment anything on it? If not,
I was just gonna say also, there was a mention about 14th Street as well, you know, about buying up that property and turning it into a parking lot and a parking garage later down the road. So that would be something that I would not want to see that. And then I also wondered too about, we do own the property that's actually on the beach on 14th Street, is what I was told. So, I mean, that's an asset, that's a lot of money sitting there too, that if we ever decided to just sell it outright, which is another source of revenue.
I think one of the things that I have in talking with Mel, I think that we just need to get through this budget, do our point here, and then I think we have some long-term planning to work on. We have some things that have come up in this meeting. I'm sure that you'll see that we have to make another list of things we need to get done. But the concentration needs to be on the budget to get through this first. But I believe as a council, as we come back to the first of the year, we need to put together plans to do other things that allow us to grow. More planning than there is doing a budget, okay? All right. Mel, you have anything to say before we get started? Obviously, welcome to the first meeting.
Well, nothing in any detail, of course, but it's always a pleasure to be here, and I appreciate the confidence that the board has given me to kind of pick up the slack and get us through the next couple of months till we get a permanent person to sit in the seat.
Good deal. Any comments from the council as we get started? Any comments from the citizens before we get started? Let's get and let her rip. Okay. It's easy to start on the first page and kind of just go down and see if there's anything that's outstanding. I think the easiest way for me to do my part is probably pass to you some of the things that I've looked at, and I think I want to try to reduce. So you don't have to take notes, you can just use that. Now, there you go, pass it down. And then, I have one more if you need to know. There you go. One of the things that probably everybody's noticed about our budget is that the city's in pretty good shape. City has good reserves. So I think we're in a good place. One of the things that was put into place was a reserve accounts, additional reserve accounts. So they would start a reserve account for, if the fire chief wanted to buy a truck, instead of coming to us that year and saying, hey, we need a truck, we need to put it on the budget for next year. The process was started 2 years ago that they start putting away $100,000 a month in account, $10,000, $20,000, whatever the number is. And so there's a number of reserve accounts. So being in a good place financially and having reserve accounts for some of the high ticket items, I thought the first place to cut would be your reserve accounts. I'm not saying eliminate them at zero, but I think that there's an opportunity, like for a fire truck, we put $100,000 away for the year. I think we could put $75,000, okay? And so that was my thought process that I went through it. We had a tree grant that's $75,000. We're obviously not gonna do that. We can take that to zero. These are all on here, and we can all talk about it. If you have any questions, the dredge fund was 75, we brought that down 25% to 57,000. JLAC consultant, talked a little bit to the city administrator about having somebody to write procedures and policies so that we can get up to speed rather than keep getting dinged. So we put $75,000 in there, reduce that to 50,000. The overall effect of that reserve accounts is taking it from 750 to 482. It's a savings of about $268,000 with still maintaining saving in those accounts, but not at the level we were saving at. That's about a 35.7 reduction. It's 267. If you look at millage rate, the millage rate moves about 0.25% at about 183,000 somewhere in there. So a 0.5% is about 360, 366. So this would help us more than 0.25% just alone in those accounts. I don't want to take the floor here, so you have mine in writing. You can go through them now and go over them with each council person. I'd like to move on to any other suggestions for cuts.
Well, I mean, it's not a cut, it's the tree fund and the tree grant, we decided.
We didn't apply for it, and I made that decision based on, as we looked at it, and I worked with January on it, I decided we weren't ready to make those kinds of decisions for the types of trees where to put them. We didn't need that much money. So I would rather see us apply for it next year, and as the mayor's already said, have a plan and get citizen input. I think there are a couple different groups here that could help with just the tree selection. And the other thing was, when I talked to the grant provider, we were already way behind, and I just wasn't comfortable we would have a good chance of it.
I mean, you said it was tight, and I just want to be sure I was.
It was. It wouldn't even answer our questions that we had. We were beyond that point. So.
Yeah, I know you said, I guess we'll bring it up, you had this, originally there was this money put aside for the legal. And I see you dropped it 25 grand, but I wondered about that entire amount, period. I mean, I guess I never got the opportunity to find out what our running, like what we're estimated, I mean, is this a good estimate, or are we just throwing something out there?
Right, 'cause so
We're nowhere close to that.
I spoke to Mr. Hubbard about this, because I was trying to understand how much were we paying for Mr. Sloan, how much of that was he thinking we would need for the lawsuit that's still there. And so I never got a clear answer. Do you know what Mr. Sloan's salary is for the year?
Yeah, well, he's at, just to come to the two meetings a month, the council meetings, and then one planning and zoning meeting is $2,500.
So, help me with the math. Any idea what that equals for the?
Well, five
Well,
is 60, yeah, you know, $5,000, because we paid, the previous.
And he charges by the hour for every time we.
It's $300 an hour.
And we'd have to get we pulled it the first month or so, and he was actually tracking less money than the 5,000 we were paying.
It was less than 1,200, I think it was,
But-
that first time. we
Yeah,
tried.
and I haven't seen another report.
So that's probably high.
But you're saying his fee is in this, because there was another section.
It made it look like, the wording made it sound like it was all for legal, for the outstanding lawsuit. Chris told me that's not the case. It was a combination of legal fees for the potential continued lawsuit and for the city attorney.
Correct, so his salary alone for the two meetings and the planning and zoning meeting is $30,000 a year. Prior legal fees were like $65,000, so
Mhm.
we're at 30 plus we have a window of 30 that he could really bill us at.
As long as that's part of, and it's just a budget. I mean, if we don't spend it, we don't spend it.
So it sounds like it's pretty high though, that estimate.
Yeah, I think it is, that's the reason why I did from 2 to, I was suggesting the 2 to 175, because even with the lawsuit, we're not anywhere near that. And we're not doing anything with the lawsuit right now until the appeal goes up.
So we want to trim some more fat off of that?
That's what I was wondering. Could we trim more fat off of that? That's just taking 25.
I mean, I don't want to put us in, I know it's better to have it budgeted ahead of time, so we don't have to call.
I would suggest one thing is that we wait until our next meeting to see if we want to
Okay.
trim it any more, only to see if we collect more data off of, we've had, based on prior administrator leaving and some other things going on, we've had some fees that we talked to them about the houses and things like that. So there's been some extra costs that I'd like to get put together maybe next week, a week after, and confirm that. But we can come back and look at it again, but I don't think anybody's having a problem whatsoever with the 25,000.
No.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. The plan for the comprehensive plan, the update. Prior city administrator had it slated for an outside source. And the cost he had in there was $125,000. I suggest cutting that quite a bit, because I think we can move that task to a subcontractor and give it to planning and zoning and the citizens to have input. So I put $50,000 in there.
So could I get clarification first? So according to the notes that Mr. Hubbard gave us, it said it was for updating the land development code, not the comp plan. And I had this discussion with Chris. Is there a chicken and egg thing here? Do we do the comp plan first and then base the LDC on it? Or we plan
I
to do
had the
both?
same conversation. That's why I suggest doing the comp plan before the.
And I believe it's actually overdue. It's already 5 years.
Correct. Okay. So the last time was 17. So, but this, just to clarify what you're saying, this 125, the conversation I had, that was Aurora's fee.
Which
She's
is
not here to
not-
speak, but that was her fee just for the LDC, I call it LDR.
Right, and I'm suggesting not doing the LDR, do the comp plan first, do it at a reduced cost using P and Z and our citizens. And if we need a subcontractor, have them come in and give extra input as a part-time basis. We could reduce that to $50,000 easy.
Yeah, and we had, like you said again, I knew we've got a few months, I mean, that would be something I would want. I'm okay with saying, hey, we're gonna cut this, but we need to get with the warrant. She helped with the last comp plan.
Well, and I think we need to talk to the P and Z
And the
and see
B- yeah.
if they're willing to take that on. I think it's a good idea, but I think we need to do some coordination.
Okay. Anything else?
Um,
Are we allowed to ask questions?
Yes, ma'am. But I'm gonna ask you to come to the podium now. I got a request that, you know, people come more so to the podium because when they're listening on the video, they can't hear, so. I appreciate it.
Lisa Logan. I just wanted to say that the citizens, along with P and Z, can do a great deal of the work with both the comp plan and the LDR. We did it before. It took us a long time to get through the comp plan. And while we did have outside help, we did most of the work.
Yeah,
And I know
I
that
was here.
because I was there at every single meeting. So, just keep that in mind. We can do a lot, and we, the citizens, know better than any outsider what we really want. So just keep that in mind.
Thank you.
I would agree.
Okay, other than going down the list,
Unless you want to pay us.
yeah. We'll go back up to 125. Okay, again, we can go line by line, guys, and through it if you want to.
Yeah, I was just looking at your sheet, how this, we got a lot of other stuff to go through. Yeah, we can go through this, I mean, I have questions too of these big swings, so I would like somebody to just, you know, we don't have to get into every single one, we've got time, but, you know, my first highlighted item is this, you know, gas tax, I mean, it was
Where are you at? You're on.
line item 2 on the budget sheets that you have. You know, this gas tax, it was budgeted 80,000 in '24, and we're budgeted 180. You know, I've talked to, you know, Chris a few times. He said that's actually what we're taking in. But I guess that's me trying to understand some of these things, that these, especially these bigger swings. I mean, you can go down to quickly, building permits went from 202 budgeted in '24 to 60,000. I'm like, I have no, I don't know where all this originated from, you know, some of that, when it's a huge, it's $140,000 that we're.
Yeah, I mean, I asked some of these questions too. On the local gas tax, going from 80 to 180, one of the things we don't have, Mel, and I talked to you about it, is the year-to-date. There's a possibility that 80 is not what we collected. We probably collected 120 or 130. That was my conversation.
Yeah, that's what I was under the impression. I did ask him that, about that particular one. He said, no, we actually are taking in closer to this
Right.
number.
So on the revenue side, what I would suggest is mark those, call those your yellow items, yellow them. Let's find out what the year-to-date is, and then see if it looks as bad as, or as good.
It's good.
I mean, this is a positive going from 80 to 180. But there's a possibility year-to-date, we probably collected 130, and he's just planning to collect more than the following.
Yeah. Well, then, like I said, I don't want to get, like the building permits, I don't want to get to that. I mean, that's a huge drop in our collections. So we'll get to that. We'll answer those questions.
Right, if I could add, you know, getting a budget and a spreadsheet to balance and all this is a lot of work. And Chris did a lot of work to get us
To this,
to this point.
yes.
You know, so thanks to him for getting us here. But I think we can make some improvements and do kind of what the mayor just said. It's always appropriate to have year-to-date so you can kind of gauge how things are going. So Adrian and I are working on retooling this spreadsheet a little bit to include that very thing.
Right.
We also want to include a more detail, like let's take grants at, you know, 1,450,000.
Yeah.
When you read this, you know, we know what it is because Chris gave us the sheet.
Yes.
But those people don't know that because they probably don't have that sheet. So we're gonna add lines under that so that people can understand what makes up that $1,450,000 as an example.
And that was one of my last things that we did talk to Chris, is we're in July of getting, you know, the rest of the state money was coming in, let's try to get to as close to that true number, which you're working with, I think we need,
Right.
to what we really did this year, what we're bringing in. I know it's still got to weed through, but after July, it should start, we should be getting a real good eye on that.
And I just want to point out, so everybody's aware, that the taxable value estimate from the county, that may change what we've been given. The 759 million and change, that number could go up or down. That's not the final number. So,
And history shows that it does change.
yes, and the other thing I want you to keep in mind is, Chris based the ad valorem tax number based on 95% of that number. So he took some of that into consideration that it could go down. But I just want you to be aware of that in his ciphering.
Okay, well, there's no need for me to keep on with some of these bigger swings.
Well, those are the questions you had, Jason, and there's a possibility, there's a solution to it. With the year-to-date and the new tooling and the chart coming out, you're gonna see that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
like
by-
the grants, I think, are pretty, I mean, from what I was told, you know, they're just rolling over. Those are grants that we already had that we just haven't spent.
Not all
That's
of
why
them.
they're put in this
No,
account.
he's put in their forecast grants, like the Coastal Partnership Initiative for the walkovers. And, no, I don't know if this is the typical way of doing it. He's got the grant plus our share. Is that the normal way? Because it makes it look like we have more money than we do.
It is normal, because you have to budget for the full amount.
So, but you have to keep in mind that when you look at one of those grants, I guess if it breaks out what our share is and what we're actually taking in, because it can be deceiving that half of that is usually our contribution.
So you're telling me this sheet that he gave, this general fund sheet that says grants like 950,000 for the boat ramp, that's been secured.
Well,
And that's where
Yes.
that's been transferred to this.
Mel needs to go through and like he's planning to break that down, because some of those grants, the source, they're 100%. There's some other grants that are forecast that we either got or haven't gotten yet that are 50-50. And so it's a little misleading when you look at that number. So it needs to be broken down in more detail to see it clearly.
Okay.
That's the lacking key of all of this budget. We have a lot of numbers, bulk numbers, that just don't categorize the way they should.
Right.
And that's what we need to fix.
And so are we gonna do this line by line, or you want major
I'd rather,
discussion right now?
at this point, because we're redoing we're retooling the budget the way that it's, the format of it,
Mhm.
I'd rather go ahead and go through the items, just by, if you wanna look at, let's say, development services, if you have an area in development services, or law enforcement, or fire, or code enforcement, or general maintenance, let's go ahead and go through those individually.
Okay.
There's 23 pages here.
Yeah, and I think that, but I mean, gonna be the big items. I mean, if we're gonna get down to the grass, I mean, we need to look at other transfers and what we're cutting
Yeah.
and get past all that. I
So,
mean, if we're not spending $900,000 on 14th and 37th Street, we need to cut it out. I mean, that's all I mean,
Yeah.
if we're trying to get this
That's-
there.
That's the list we wanna leave here with,
Okay.
okay? If you guys have a list of stuff that you
I do,
noted,
I have some stuff.
can you
Before we-
pass it around, or?
I didn't make copies of it, but before we leave this page, I want to point out one or two things. So Mel, I don't see the law enforcement impact fee on this revenue sheet. And so that needs to be added. I guess it's normal to have.
Hold on. Or is it law enforcement?
Law enforcement impact fees. So when you look at the first page, you got Parks and Rec and fire impact fees, but I don't see, that's the only impact fees I see on it. And I assume the water and sewer impact fees are in the enterprise fund, they're not reflected in this, is that the norm?
That's correct.
Yeah.
I need to point out one thing. Our fire chief did a good job of helping us nail down a figure. You look on that first sheet, the MSTU funds, it says 65,000.
Yeah.
When this was prepared, that was an estimate. He's nailed down the figure now he got just today at 59,659. Of course, that'll be reflected, you know, when we retool it.
Okay, that was on fire, where at?
MSTU funds.
Yeah.
Spreadsheet back on the front page.
And I see where he's talking, we had police impact fees, we're supposed to have like 68,556 in the balance. And that's, just needs to be transferred
Needs to be-
over.
needs to be added.
Needs to be added.
And then a couple other areas, Mel, the transfer in for paving and maintenance, I assume that's coming out of the general fund?
Correct.
So is there some way to indicate that sort of thing, so I know it's not money we just got as a grant, or that it's income
Yeah, it's-
coming out of another pot?
It's from roads and streets.
He had that was listed.
Was it on there?
So
Well,
much.
like the mayor already said, I think they're gonna go down and add into these categories an explanation, and I think that'll make it easier to review versus going back. Because some of those items on the separate list weren't broken out as much as I would prefer to see it. Okay, ready for my list?
Yeah.
So, the development director, are we going to fill that position or not? Now, that isn't on the first page, I'm just going through this, the things I wrote down. Development director, almost $100,000, I think, in that salary,
That was 75,000 salary, right?
plus benefits.
What page, what do you want?
6. Page 6 at the top.
Oh, development director, 75,000. Who is the development
We
director?
don't have one.
We don't have,
Yeah.
That was my.
I mean, we got it budgeted, so
Well,
I didn't think we had one.
are we going to hire one, or were we looking to use that for the finance director's funding?
It's been several months that we haven't had an assistant city administrator, and, you know, I think that's worked out okay. So
this was,
maybe
this
maybe
was,
that money could be used if we decide on a financial person.
Yeah, I thought we already had some money for finance.
this was.
Well, for the-
young guy, wasn't it?
If you look at we've got an accountant vacant position that is 50% city clerk and 50% general government. I'm assuming the intent was that's the finance director's salary. If you add it up, that's about 75,000.
Yeah.
And so it's budgeted for, even though it's not filled.
That is correct.
Just like the development director's position is budgeted for but not filled.
Correct.
So if we look at potentially reducing the mill rate, is that a position we want to fill or not?
He shows that, as vacant. He doesn't show that as a, finance director or anything else.
It was Michael Manning.
Right.
Yeah, right. But I mean, it's in the budget, so we're just trying to,
But even the hourly wage, I mean, the breakdown, 100% is that.
Right.
It's not a
If you-
percentage difference.
If you look at the development director's salaries and benefits, it's $100,063.
Okay, my point is that we're not gonna have one, so.
Let's take it out,
Exactly.
that's,
Yeah.
yeah, get to the.
okay?
Yeah, we're
All
not
right.
gonna use it, we can use it in other areas, but it's not gonna be here.
Okay, my next big question is,
You have that, Mel? I just wanna make sure we get it written down before.
Yeah, I got it down.
Okay.
Chris had recommended taking $400,000 out of the Parks and Rec impact fees for a pier extension survey and engineering. Is that something we want to proceed with?
I think we need that pier, and that, to get this going, I think we're gonna have somebody to get the extension. And we was trying just to extend it out of Fort Worth from in 37th Street to the water. That's what the intention was gonna be.
Right, and I believe what Chris's plan was to show the state that we had skin in the game by doing this and help with getting this process. And I always had discussions with Representative Griffiths about this. So, is it, I guess what I'm wondering is, do we want to spend the money on that? Or would we want to spend it on things we aren't planning to do right now, like Parker Park?
Well,
I think we agreed to the extension. I mean, I think that's something we all voted on.
but I do wanna make
I
sure,
don't remember voting on it.
I would say I wanna be sure, as he said, on the parks, that we finish our bathroom. I mean, I know we had,
That's budget.
250 for the, under the palms, but we're still dealing with, Sunset, or not Sunset, Parker Park.
So,
So, I mean, we should be putting money,
I guess, Mel, if you can answer this, we'll look it up. I don't think in our budget is for restrooms, I'm talking Parker Park, restrooms, the pole barn picnic area. I do believe there's some funding, grant money for the amphitheater, but I think that's it at this point.
You're correct.
so we only had, yeah, not to interrupt you, Tim, so we've got 423 on this sheet from I had that in the recreation impact fee account. Am I looking at that? I'm looking at it.
Yes.
So we do need to look at the pier more. We've talked about it, but we do have these parks and stuff that need to finish, needing attention with the bathrooms, and that's my opinion. And so, I mean, that's,
We've already voted on the bathrooms. I think we need to.
well, we did on the
Yeah,
one,
we
but we
did.
got another one.
That was for under the palms, though, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're getting,
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me from here?
No, I can't. I'm sorry.
You can.
I
Loud as I am?
I shouldn't say that I can, but citizens.
John Harrell, 43 First Street. Speaking of the pier, are we not waiting on FEMA to do some engineering studies before we can proceed, before we even extend it?
We've already had that conversation, and the question was asked that there would be no effect on the FEMA decisions or movement or impacted at all. We were told it would not.
So right now, we can't get from 37th Street to the water until FEMA does their,
That's correct.
so why are we budgeting something we still don't have approval before we can even extend it? Why put it in the budget for next year if we still haven't got the engineering survey from the Army Corps or from FEMA, whoever's doing it? You're talking about adding on to what FEMA's gonna pay for.
That's correct.
We haven't gotten approval for that.
Right, we're questioning the extension if it can be done. This is engineering.
But I understand. But I mean, why are we even talking about extending when we don't have what we've got there yet? I mean, FEMA hasn't given, to my knowledge, I don't know, us any timeline of when they're gonna be done that, yes, we're gonna approve money for you to do it. Do
Right.
you see what we're kinda
I
putting
see what you're saying.
the
that-
cart before the horse. So why budget it?
Well, we have
unless
to
you
do
just-
some studies before. I mean, you have to get ahead of it if you're gonna extend it.
Okay,
So I understand your question, John, and I'm not championing either side, but my understanding was that the intent was to try and get state authorization funding for the extension of the pier, which would be years away, but by showing them that by doing the engineering study, we could show the cost of this and we put skin in the game. I think that was the recommendation, and I'm not saying I'm in favor of spending that money for this right now, but I think that was the kind of the plan.
well, if we do a study for an extension, but then FEMA changes what they do, then we've gotta go back and do another study. Is that correct?
Well, it could be true.
Could
but-
be possible.
So then that money's
Yeah,
been
yes.
wasted, right?
Not wasted.
But, well, yeah, if we gotta do another study, so it's money on top of money.
So
You know what I'm saying?
Well, we can totally go away from the extension, but that isn't what we decided.
No,
to do.
I'm not saying go away from it, but what I'm saying is that we're waiting on a government entity, and we all know how that works out.
And we need
So I'm
that-
just saying, do we have to put it in this year's budget? If the study's not gonna do us any good, it's wasted. And we gotta go back, and the historian could probably speak to this. We have done studies in the past, and then they laid around, nothing's done, then we turn around and we do another study.
There could be agreement to FEMA that if that's gonna happen, they need to know what engineering, they need to know how the engineering extension is gonna happen before they make their decision. We will get a hold of FEMA, we have a call with FEMA, and we'll ask that question.
Yeah, because it was
That's-
under
that's-
my,
That's all I'm questioning is, are we just throwing the money away for a study, then we're gonna have to turn around and do the study again 3 or 5 years down the road, and we still don't have the pier?
so my take on it was that FEMA has pretty well agreed to take it back to where it was. And
Right.
now we're in the core, because everybody asks, when's the pier coming back? And
Of course.
it's in the core, and we're waiting on that. But that was a pretty much a done deal, and then this was to,
Add on.
Tim said, to add on, but to get the skin in the game and to kind of get it going, so if we did get it, we could tie it in to the rest of it, but it is a big.
And that's my question, are we gonna have to do it twice or 3 times? Cause I hate to see the city wasted. And you can't answer that, cause we're dependent on FEMA.
Yeah.
So I'm just bringing this out to think about it, is it something that has to be done
Yeah,
right away?
I think the engineering side of the pier is approved. We're going through the environmental type of
Right.
permitting right now. So it's not likely. I think the next hurdle for us is when the environmental permitting is done.
What if it's not?
But when it's.
But what if it's not?
Okay, let's just say it's done.
Yeah, but you can't.
Hey, let me get
I
to
wanna, you know, I think
Here's
as
the next-
taxpayers, we wanna know, but it could
John, I
not
understand
happen.
what you're saying.
Okay.
Here's the next hurdle, I think, on the pier,
Mhm.
is the cost that was approved was like 5 years ago. We know that's changed, and
Oh, yeah.
FEMA will have to come back and reassess the cost. So can I back up though? It sounds like you think we voted on this, and did you do that in the previous council? Because I don't recall ever voting on the pier extension.
I don't either, but I have
We
this
voted
meeting.
on the expenditure, I'll look it up.
No, we kind of voted that we would entertain, from what I remember, that we did have the conversation, and we said, you know, this is a big possibility, we wanted to get more info, try to nail down, because it was with the state appropriated money,
Right.
that we were told, you know, there was 10 million, is what we were told that we could, you know, it's the biggest amount, but let's go after
Right,
this 10 million from the state for the extension.
right.
And this was to get us in.
FEMA is aware of the extension. Let
Okay.
Mel and I get on the phone with them at their next call,
Okay.
which I
I'm
think is next week, and I agree with you.
I don't wanna
We
spend
don't
it
wanna
2 or 3
spend
times. Yes, sir.
That money
That's my
prior
question.
to knowing that we're gonna get somewhere.
As long as y'all are keeping that in your minds, that's all I want.
But if they tell us they
Plant the
can't,
seed that this could happen.
If they can't take us to the extension, then they need to tell us, we can back off from that.
Mel, do you know
Okay,
if
thank
we're
you.
on the Parks and Recs, will you find, what do we, per year, is this, how much do we take in per year? If we deplete this fund from this one project, because I'm serious about the rest of the parks. I mean, are we taking in 27, where is it?
We
Use my
budgeted
trusty- We
57,000.
budgeted 50, last year it was 30. I mean, what do we take in per year, if you could let us know, like, if we deplete this down, how long is it gonna take to get something that we can do something with?
Yeah, it depends on, development.
Yeah, well, I know, we should be able to get some,
Right, we've had a lot of it lately, so.
yeah, I mean, we should be able to get an idea, I hate to wipe it out.
You know, I'll get you some detailed numbers, so you can look at it.
All right, so we have some questions on the extension.
I got more questions.
Go ahead.
The boat
Have
ramp,
any solutions?
actually, no.
All right.
Maybe. The boat ramp lean-to. So I understand the discussion about putting a lean-to up down at the boat ramp to use for shade for events and things. I think it's a great idea. I question, should that come out of the Parks and Rec Fund, Bill, where I think it's coming out of?
Correct.
Or would it be more appropriate to come out of the boat ramp fund? And I don't even know how much money's in the boat ramp fund.
Unfortunately, I have not had access to Springbrook yet, so I can't tell you an answer.
Okay, so I guess that's a question, just could the boat ramp fund support that? I have no idea what's even in there.
Your question is, can the boat, instead of,
Instead of Parks and Rec, could we take that out of the boat ramp
I don't
fund?
think we'd have enough in Parks and Recs if we spend the 400. Would be a new point.
It might be.
I had it in here.
Something else I want to point out, there's nothing we can do about it, but I just want to point out, next year, I hope we don't have this issue. There's not a 5-year capital improvements plan with this budget. And the issue with that, from my perspective, is we look at setting a mill rate, and the projects we have, I think it's difficult to foresee what we're gonna need in the future, because we haven't looked at the infrastructure costs. We're looking at 2 lift station repairs this year. What are we looking at that needs to be repaired next year? And I don't know, because there's no plan, there's no forecast. And maybe there isn't, but I fear if we set the mill rate too low, and then see next year or then a year beyond that we have some major expenses coming, we might have to back up and raise the mill rate, which I don't think is a good idea, or find funding out of some other thing that we've planned for. So my only point is, next year I would like to really see a 5-year CIP.
there's a solution. Next year, we need a plan for that.
Okay.
5-year plan, capital plan.
Capital improvement.
That's something the department
We did a CIP last year
Yeah.
for projected out till 2028.
Well, I don't know where it's at. It's not been presented to us.
I'm sure I'll bring a copy of it last summer because it was in last year's budget.
Yeah, what Chris told me was it expired in May, so I don't know why we didn't use it or we updated it, but anyway. My next question is, so as I look at all the line items, and I broke it out by department and fund for everything, not including salaries and benefits. And there are some costs, and I'm not saying they're unwarranted, but I don't really know what they are. And I would just like a better idea of what, especially other current charges is, and operating supplies. Because when you look at the total, other current charges is across all departments 48,000. This operating supplies is 188,000. Maybe that's warranted, but because it's the way it's broken out, there's no explanation. I have no idea what they are. And it might vary by department for all I know. So is there a way to get some more clarity on that?
Yes, other current costs, and what other one, supplies?
Other current supplies. Oh, excuse me, operating supplies. Other current charges and operating supplies. There are a couple other little things in there I'm sure we'll get to.
So you wanna know, I mean, I'm not being a wise guy here, I'm asking.
Yes.
You wanna know if they're ordering pencils, pens, or whatever, is that what we're asking?
No, I don't want that much detail, because there's office
But that's
supplies.
operating supplies, I mean, that's what, I'm sure that's what it is. So what are we trying to get to?
I'm trying to understand if we're padding the budget there, if this is money this is normal, this is a.
If we had the
annual
year to
cost.
date, we know we weren't, and
Yeah.
we would know what they used last year and the prior year.
And I know it's probably minuscule amounts when you're talking how much, I'm not saying it's padded, guys. I'm just looking at it, I just want to understand the clarity of what it is, if that's possible.
Well, thinking of the canal section, other current charges includes the boat ramp expansion project, and that's a pretty good number on that.
Yeah, I took those numbers out. those
Okay.
numbers.
But yeah, I get what you mean. I had a council one time years ago that wanted to know how much we spent on paper clips and all the supplies.
Right.
And I was like, you've got to be kidding.
Right.
So I think I understand what Mr. Linderman's saying. We don't want to get to that level of detail.
No, I don't
But-
need that, but I just wanna be more comfortable that that's money that we regularly spend and it's used for those things. Or maybe it's because we don't know how much, we might need a widget someday, and that's kind of where some of it's.
Well, honestly, that's part of it. You know, for instance, the water and sewer department has a leak in a water line. You know, you can't budget for that because you don't know what's gonna happen, but you gotta have money in the budget for supplies and
And
extra pipe and
what that
clamps
is,
and that sort
Is
of
that what
thing.
those line items are?
Yeah, that's what the intent is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think we've been doing this, the budgets for, you gotta be getting these numbers from some previous years.
What department are you sort of, but I'm looking, I'm going through,
There-
it. what department are you trying to?
They're across all departments, so.
They're all $250, $300 or $800.
Well, I'm looking at it, right, but then wouldn't that be supplies?
There are office supplies, so I'll give you an amount, Jerry.
Give me the department, that's what I want you to do.
General government, 25,000 in operating supplies.
Roads and street,
That's what I'm looking at.
17,000 in operating supplies.
Yeah, that's what I'm
You've got
looking at. That's
33,000 in the water fund, in sewer fund. Those I can kind of understand what we were just talking about. But like general government, what is operating supplies in general government? Because general government consists of, that's where the salaries go for some of our administrative and accounting type people.
Yeah, we'll clarify for you.
So, I'm not trying to be a pain in the butt, but I think I want to do my due diligence.
Well, it does say in the water department, 25,000 is for the water share of the new warehouse,
Yeah,
and 3,000 for routine expenses.
those kinds of things I can understand now.
But I mean, even going back to the general government, like you're saying, if you look back at constantly, I mean, you know, 21 was 10.5, 22 was 25, 23 was 29.7, 24 was 25, I mean, it's a consistent.
But what is it?
All right,
Enough on that.
Yeah.
we'll get to that, and what we'll do is we'll actually pull some bills for a month and see what they are.
Sure.
You know, I apologize if I'm wasting your time.
No, no, you're not, I'm just wanting to,
Other current charges and office supplies, that's the two, right?
Not
Operating
supplies.
supplies.
Operating supplies.
Operating supplies.
Okay, the next one is, I see we budgeted 15,000 for the sheriff department for a drive-on boat dock. And I believe that is coming out of the Parks and Rec.
oh, he's got it in here.
And my point is, why wouldn't it come out of police impact fees? Could that come out of police impact fees?
Or what kind of impact?
That's a
It's
good question.
15,000
Well,
for the boat, for the sheriff's department drive-on boat ramp.
but I think we knew the police impact fees, we're kinda gonna need that for that police vehicle. I mean, we've kind of been put on,
Did we agree?
we were
with
gonna, we haven't agreed to it, but we were told to get the number that you need because, like we said, I know we were kinda giggling about it, but he's either gonna put the car there or he's gonna say, well, we need to increase budget to get the car. I mean, what I heard is, we're pretty much responsible for bringing the car. And the
Okay.
car was gonna be 55 to
Got it.
60.
So why is it coming out of Park and Rec?
Well, that's the boat thing. I'm talking about the police car that we were gonna have.
No, I'm talking about,
That is-
so I know 50,000's small change, but don't take it out of Parks. If it can't come out of the police impact fee, then fund it out of general fund or something, but don't take it from the Parks.
I would agree with you on
I don't think the police thing, we get that much money every year. I think that's just that last amount we had in there was over years. and
Years.
And years. I don't think it's gonna pay for the boat ramp down there. And we do need that now. I mean, he needs.
And I'm not
to put the
disagreeing
boat
with
ramp.
that, but don't take it out of Parks and Rec.
Noted.
All right. Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Don't take it out of Parks and Rec.
That's your suggestion,
That's my
That's
suggestion.
what we'll look at.
Yeah.
that. And Mel, we do need to check with the sheriff again now that this is up, about what is going on with this car that we had, that it was proposed that we were gonna, you weren't here, but that we were gonna use this police impact fee, this 68,000, whatever the number is. I mean, the proposal that Chris brought was,
And the
we
attorney-
just transfer it all, but we said we wanna get, what is the car gonna be, and then we'll just give you
And
a,
they've already purchased
Check
it, they've
for it.
already picked it up, and the
Right.
attorney was gonna come back with the process, I understand that, so sorry for the confusion.
no, I just wanna be sure we knew we were
I just don't
spending.
think it ought to come out of partial. Okay, here's my next question and suggestion. Stormwater, fund. I believe we need to put money away for stormwater, just like we're doing for a garbage truck and a sewer truck, because every year it's gonna cost us money. Right now, we have the $1 million plus for the study and engineering plan, and then about $7 million for the detention pond, stormwater plan. The stormwater is gonna be a continued problem every year in this city forever. And if we can afford it, I'd like to see money put away to help with stormwater in the future.
So start a reserve account.
Start a
for
reserve account,
Stormwater,
yep,
okay, that's a suggestion, okay?
75,000, I don't know what the number should be, 100,000, stormwater is gonna be expensive, and it's gonna be a continuing problem, that's my suggestion.
Okay, I think it's good.
Well, if we cut some of these other, like Rich is saying, and we've already kind of,
Mhm.
that was already budgeted in, so we got a little money there to.
Okay.
All right, here's my next question and suggestion. This year, we had the long-range plan, the master plan. It wasn't quite what we were looking for, and I thought the council agreed and decided that the next year we would do a phase 2 of it, but I don't see any funding set aside for that. Is that something we should look at?
Laura and them did.
Well, it could be a Laura, or we could hire someone, but there's nothing for that to continue that, and I think that we've agreed we need a master plan.
Wasn't that a grant?
That was a grant.
That was a grant last year.
Yeah.
I don't know if we can apply for the same grant this year, but needless, it didn't turn out to be enough money anyway, 75,000.
Right.
So,
Can we check and see if there's maybe a grant available?
we can,
Okay.
Or he's saying just go ahead and budget some money to
well,
be proactive.
I'd rather budget what we need for it, because that grant, out of 400 applications, there were 6 selected. I don't know if we can get it again,
I understand that part.
so,
And maybe since they funded the first portion of it, they'll be more likely to fund the second portion of it. I think it's worth asking.
yeah, all right, sorry. I doubt if there's money in the budget this year, but I would like to see sidewalks on 15th Street filled in, and
Okay. I think we need to concentrate on the budget
Okay.
rather than futuristic
all right,
type of tasks. We're not gonna get through this budget.
okay, thank you.
I agree with you 100%. Let's have a meeting, let's have a workshop, let's do whatever we gotta do to plan for the future. But we need to also go through this budget and see where we're gonna end here.
Okay. The last thing I want to add is, I would like to see, under the city administrator's budget, the way it's line itemed out, 70% of his salary is in that line item, and 25% of the admin. I would rather see 100% of the CA reflected in that, because right now, 30% comes from the water and sewer fund. So that's my recommendation. Modify that to show 100% of his salary, and to note that 25% of another salary is coming out of
Well, that's something when we expand those lines on the budget, we can show that, so that the public knows that the CA's salary is 70% and then 30% in the water.
I think there's a lot of confusion on the salaries, just overall, Mel, just because of the system way it's laid out. I'm not happy with it. I mean, I think there should be, I agree with Mr. Linden. Everybody should be at 100% and we should know where it's at and put them in a department. But this separation, I don't understand the benefit of it.
Well, for simplicity's sake, I can't disagree with a thing anybody said. But the reality of it is, we have fund accounting in municipal government, and you have buckets of money that you can only use for certain purposes. And what happens is that someone who sits in my seat doesn't work just under administration. You know, we work with Tommy and Garrett quite a bit, you know, in the water and sewer department. So that bucket of money in the water and sewer should fund part of my salary. There's two ways of doing that, is to go ahead and do it like we're doing, a percent here, a percent there, that's agreed upon by the auditors. Or at the end of the year, we make one mass transfer out of the water and sewer fund into the general fund, but that doesn't work too well either. So,
Been that way for 5 years with me, and it's very confusing, and I agree with all y'all. If you go by line item, the salaries, all, it's just, it's some.
but you folks are the council, if that's what you want, I can make that
Like
change.
you, I just don't think that would be.
But if we add it all up, at the end of the day, everybody's saying we took all these salaries, it would equal the
Yeah.
same. So it's,
Exactly.
and I'm not the administrator, and I haven't been in government. If it needs to go from different pools, I'm getting it. It is confusing, but.
All right,
you
that's all I
explain
have.
it. So
That's all I have.
All right, Mel, you got everything down, or,
Yes, I've made quite a few notes, yes, sir.
okay, good deal. Anybody else at the table, reductions or suggestions?
So, under like the salaries, can we break it down so the public can actually see? Like, for instance, the city clerk, you know, saying salary is 114, but that's actually divided 3 different people.
Mhm.
But, you know, the rumor's gonna go out that, that we're paying Tammy 114,000, and doesn't she?
I did not make that
But it's
right.
actually, you know, part Julie and then I think part the accountant.
I
You know,
don't-
if that could be broken down a little bit more specifically.
Sure, we can add those lines
Okay.
below that
Yeah,
114,000 figure,
okay.
so that, you know, you and the public know that it's this much to this position,
Mhm.
and the other percent is at this particular area as well. It's gonna make the lines a whole lot longer than these single pages, but, you know, I think it's beneficial to have
So
information.
the key is here, we're trying to reduce, we're cutting out big items at first, because obviously after this meeting, we're having a millage rate. Okay? So I'm taking it to go back, that's what we need to get back on. I mean, these items, you know, we've addressed the reserve funds, trimming that down. Obviously, we've got these other transfers. I mean, I think we've all talked about the 900,000 for the 14 to 37. Are we scrapping that whole thing? You know, we do have 800,000 for the boat ramp coming from the canal fund, which the boat ramp needs to be fixed.
Got to be fixed and pay the
Yeah.
parking lot after
Yeah.
they get through with the.
With the expansion.
Yes.
So we got that. We have the 280 for the amphitheater. I mean, do we want to move forward with that? I mean,
That's a grant, isn't it?
it says here it's coming out of other transfers, would be, that's it's the ARPA. I was told that it's an account we have. That's what it was. It's an account that we got money from when the COVID area, and we have money left in that account that can only be spent on certain things. And that's what I was told. So, you know, I'm obviously for that. I mean, we got the 250 for the replacement for under the palms, I already said, and we got 200 in here. I mean, you know, it gets down to pretty line item when you look at these breakdowns of what we're going to do there. So, anyway, getting back to that point, because we've got a sheet here that says, of course, I'm working off the 5.5 sheet. We have another one here, a 5.75 sheet. And all these items are in. I'm just trying to cut to the chase here.
The key-
We've already cut some stuff out, and all this stuff was already prepared into this budget at a 5.5, and we've already cut out a bunch. So do we wanna, I mean, we're trying to get to, because we gotta set some
We're
sort
trying
of
to see if
millage.
there's any fat or any areas that we can move in or move out, either way.
Yeah. But we got to talking, it's like, you can't go, I mean, it's so hard to, there's all kind of, I mean, we gotta go over this thing detail by detail. And obviously, we're not gonna do that all
When-
tonight.
That's, I think the missing link is, when we get this new tooling of this new, the way that the budget is laid out versus the way that it's currently laid out, I think it's gonna make a lot more sense. Because all the questions are being asked, it's based on looking at a number that doesn't,
Yeah, I mean, you got, like you said before, this delivery, whatever professional fees under there went from 122 to 250. But we already had a 200 over here budgeted in, so, there's a lot.
I'd like to just clarify one thing if I could.
Yes, sir.
Chris did figure 95% of our taxable value to have that cushion we're talking about.
Yes.
But he did base the budget on 5.75.
That's right.
Yeah, I've got that here, but I've also
We
got.
wanted to go to 5.5.
Well, I got one here that we started out at 5.5, and then I got one here that started out at that's at 5.75.
Yes. Okay.
I mean, I got that one too.
Okay.
I mean, it's, doing it at 5.5, I look at it, it brings in almost 300,000 more in revenue. Doing it at 5.75, we're bringing in another 477 instead of that. So we're gonna bring in another 80,000 in revenue by that. So I mean, that's pretty, I'm just gonna put it where it is.
alright. Did you have any, Linda, on any areas that you wanna look
On
at?
page 17, under the water revenue, on the bottom part where it says prior year surplus, $325,000. That's a lot in a surplus, but do we need to start thinking in the future too, as we start reaching capacity, one day where we need a water treatment plant that's gonna cost millions? Should we consider something like that and starting to put things in reserve for that concern that might, hit us in the face? We recently talked about there might be a major development coming on 386. That's not in our plan of how we're gonna use water and sewer. So, if we're gonna have large amounts of surplus, maybe that's some things we might wanna think about putting in reserve. Just a thought.
Well, either way, we have to either buy capacity from Bay County through another municipality, or go to a different municipality altogether, or build our own sewer plant. And every one of those things costs money.
Right.
So, that's not a bad idea to squirrel hole some money away.
And Mel and I talked a little bit about that today, and I think the number you came up with, the last one you were involved in was $12 million or something.
$12 million plant, but that was for a city of 8,500.
Right.
So either way, it's gonna cost, $4 to $6 million, and
That sounds
That's-
cheap.
that's cheap.
That sounds cheap.
Yeah,
Especially in
Plus, we
today's
gotta
market.
get the land.
Right,
yeah,
Who wants it in their backyard?
yeah, it's not gonna be free, is it?
I'm surprised we have surplus. My question is, and I kinda asked you that today, is have city rates been, the wholesale rates, are they right? What cost is our operating cost? We don't know what our operating cost is. There's a possibility we have a margin, we're making a margin. We probably don't need to. There's some question in both water and sewer that we need to answer.
But we have such a
Make
big
decisions.
expenditures that we've been holding off on, I think because I think we're all in agreement, if I can speak for y'all, but these lift stations need to be fixed. We need to buy the water meters, we need to get the software to read the meters. All of that's gonna probably just stay in the budget. So I'm feeling like we need to, we're gonna be spending some money, obviously, this year on our infrastructure and equipment and all that kind of stuff. It's all kind of in here already. And we can spend it, and we can still have a big enough cushion, because I believe that in the end, I know people have said, what are we doing with all this money in the bank? I think it's because I wasn't here. We had a hurricane, we were scared, didn't know what was gonna be paid. I think it was the right thing to do, but I think all that is unraveling, not unraveling, we're getting to the end. We're realizing we're not gonna have to pay this percentage to FEMA and everything that we thought, or of the thing. So, we have the money, now we need to invest it in our infrastructure
So
to
Mel,
fix these things.
water, and sewer enterprise funds, is there limitations on what types of things those can be used for? Or are they general revenue type funds?
They are not general revenue that can be used by the general fund. They have to stay, like I said earlier, buckets of money.
Right,
The water bucket has to be spent on water expenditures.
right, so I guess I'm gonna repeat that. The water fund can only be used for water type expenditures, the sewer only for sewer type expenditures. So maybe lift stations and water meters, that, but we can't use it to pay for piers or parks or garbage trucks or fire trucks, right?
Now, I can't comment how other municipalities do their stuff. That has happened, but you're not supposed to.
No.
Can you take your surplus and move it into a reserve account?
For the
If it's
purpose,
identified for that purpose?
for that purpose of the water and sewer, yes.
But we were, like in the water, it clearly says we got 325,000 prior year surplus. We're gonna use that money to, 125,000 to upgrade ability reading meters and 200 of that. I mean, to me, that's pretty self-explanatory. And then we're gonna use 25,000 for a 25% share, and then you go over to the sewer department, $1,094,000 prior year surplus, and we're gonna move that to the budget, which it's marked in here in red, and we're gonna use that to repair the 14th Street and Nantucket lift stations. I mean, we're using the money
So
where it's supposed to be used.
here's a question I have, and I think this maybe what you're asking, could we lower water and sewer rates?
Based on the surplus.
You very well could.
Okay. I mean, I don't know if we should, because you gotta see what we need the money for, but is that something we could take a look at?
You can take a look at it, but again, now that we are sitting in a very good financial position, now's the time to make those plans for the future that, Councilman Hamilton was talking about.
We've
Yeah,
got, go ahead.
No, I was just saying back to, and I think we spend the money, get things back to the level they need to be, and then reevaluate, and if we are collecting too much or can adjust it for the citizens, by all means, but, I think we need to use those funds, we have them, it seems like they're excessive, but if you start looking at what needs to be spent, we're not gonna have anything in those
Right.
funds.
That's just what I would like a recommendation.
Right, and quite frankly, I think we've had here rural water come in and do an assessment on our rates, and they usually set those higher than what appetite councils have for adopting, because they do throw in those reserves, and that inflates that cost.
Yeah, and back to that, I'm sorry to interrupt, but
It's okay.
we have to do, I remember when St. Joe, I haven't been out here, but, we do have to do, I guess I would call it an audit. I mean, they come in and make sure your rates are what they need to be for
Right.
those very things that you said. I mean, I don't think we're sitting here making a bunch of, but that's fine. But we do have, and I'll shut up, but the one thing we do have is we got control of the millage.
Yes.
All right, any other suggestions in areas of departments on the budget? Gary, anything? Linda, anything?
I think I'm good.
Tim, anything else?
I don't think so.
I mean, all the stuff is in red. I mean, we
I'm
can
sorry,
start-
there's one thing I'd like to see that it's not clear to me. Our contract staff, the planning, collaborative, the ad bond, the engineering, I know that EPIC is a little different, but I would like to see that, what that cost us. And it's not clear to me in here what we pay for those. And maybe just gotta point it out to me, it's not clear.
We point out what?
What we pay for those services, it's just not clear to me when I look at
Of Creel contract.
the staff contracts.
They get.
I think we did that once with like EPCI, and they were actually, it was a moneymaker for the
Yeah,
city.
they're a little different, I understand that, but I truly don't have a clue what we pay the planning collaborative, the engineering, what we paid, we're paying, Envision paying for the accounting firms and those things. I'm not even sure what we're paying.
That's all in
Mr.
the
Smith.
contract, you can pull the contract and see all that is broke down
Yeah. Where's that reflected in the budget?
It's not, it's all,
as a lump.
it's all lumped together. So I think what you're asking is, you just wanna know how much we paid the planning collaborative, so that you know.
I'd like to see what they
Yeah.
cost us, yeah.
Right.
And we say it's all lumped in, where's it lumped in, we gotta pay for it out of our budget, where's it at in the budget?
Yeah, I can't tell you exact line item off the top of my head,
I don't see it.
but you don't see it.
You know, is it hidden in development services? Is it in that pot of money? Is it in some other pot? I just don't know.
I think you just answered your own question, development services
I think that's where it's at, but I'm not sure.
has professional services.
Can you break that out?
So that's one of the items that, tool-wise, you might wanna break down to, car and rigs, engineering, so on and so forth.
Right, yeah, the 325 is, 125,000 for routine engineering costs. That doesn't answer your question,
It
though.
doesn't, no.
But I
think
know
I know
what you're
what it is,
asking.
but it doesn't answer that.
Right, I'll find that out for you.
Thank you.
All right, any questions out of the audience before we, move on here?
I have,
Yes, sir.
the impact fees we're always talking about, what can that be used on that we could possibly take out of this budget?
What could?
I mean, impact fees like for new lift stations or like a new fire truck, or can impact fees be used to replace sewer lines because of the growth of the city? It's impacting the city. I'm just asking, I understand we have a lot of impact fees in the bank, is that correct?
Correct.
And I think that's what we're getting ready to use, some, like the sewer impact fees, and you correct me, Mel. I mean, it's saying, well, that was a prior carryover because we didn't prior surplus, but we have this impact fee. Am I looking at that?
Right, impact fees can't be used for normal operating costs. It has to be used for, like from the water, used for water lines.
In the area they're collecting.
Exactly.
Well, the water lines that Tommy Davis could probably speak to this, water lines we probably need replacing, or sewage lines we need to be replacing, or lift stations that, we keep repairing them, but we're probably gonna have to buy some. Would that fall under impact fees?
Well, I think, the impact fee is for the impact that a developer has for his or her growth. And so you really can't use it for stuff that's been in the ground for 50 years you want to replace.
So then why do we have such an abundance of impact fees? Why haven't they been used, I guess?
In the areas that they could be.
Yes, sir.
If that's something we're looking at, that's something
Okay.
that's came up
We'll
recently.
take a look at it.
Yeah, because I mean, because, by the growth of the city, even though it may be a house here, a house here, a house here, that affects the water lines and the sewage lines. Or is it just for doing big developments or developments?
Oh, impact fees are collected.
It's applied on every house, correct?
Yeah.
Right, so that's why I don't understand, I don't know if this is a Bay County thing, if it's a Florida thing. I'm trying to wrap my pea brain around it. Why can't we use these funds? And you have an answer.
Can I say something
Yeah,
real
the
quick?
state statute has.
Okay,
My understanding would be, let's say your house is built and you use a lift station, just because we mentioned lift stations quite a bit. That lift station is already there, you paid impact fees, but that lift station is paid for by somebody else's money. So when somebody else goes and develops another area, we need new lift stations, be it just small houses. And that is an impact on the system, that the money that you paid into the system can use to grow the system. So it's used to grow the system, not repair the system. So it's not repairs and maintenance, it's for growth within the system.
okay.
You can't use it for argument's sake to buy a new truck for Tommy, but you actually can use it for police and fire vehicles. There are certain things you can't use it for, but primarily it's for growth.
Right.
So new things, not repairing old things, would be
Okay,
my
but if we add so many people and we need a new garbage truck, because we're now collecting 20 tons of garbage instead of 10 tons of
You
garbage.
picked the wrong thing, because
That's-
unfortunately garbage doesn't create impact fees.
There's no
and
sanitation.
They need to be used within the department which those impact fees are collected for. So if
It's
fire
only-
has impact fees,
Okay,
that money has to be
okay.
used within.
It's
the
only
department.
fire, recreation, sewer, and water.
Yeah.
Okay, that answers a lot of questions. Thank you very much.
4 areas. Anything else to table? Again, from the beginning, I mean, we're trying to find numbers, that's what I'm telling you, we're trying to find numbers that we can move. And we're trying to get solutions to some of the things we're looking for, obviously, and I think with the new tooling of the budget, hopefully, in the next couple of weeks, I think it's gonna take at least a couple of weeks, because I just know that. I know it's gonna take a couple of weeks or some other things on the table, but,
Did have one thing to clarify though, if you don't mind real quick.
sure.
We have the finance director under 50% city clerk department, 50% general government. Is that where you want that taken from, or you want them to have their own department? Or I assume we're hiring a finance director, is that correct?
We are trying.
Correct. I would at this, I think since you're just putting them on, I think you ought to have a separate area for it by itself. That would be my suggestion. Anybody else jump in?
Yeah, we're looking to you as the administrator, of what you've seen. I mean, does it need to come out of a different pool? I mean, it's the same money either way.
Let me ask you this, Mel.
If they're gonna do it, they're gonna take
Yeah.
that salary, this salary, that, and that's whether.
We're gonna let you direct us on that one.
So, this general government fund that we have, I looked at some other cities in Bay County, and they actually have the same thing, because I thought, what the heck is general government? And so it seems to be a way to account for some of the administrative work that has to be done. And when you look at whose salaries it is, you see portions of, Mary, Sherry, Vanessa, there's just a little people in there. And so I don't know where else you would put it. And so personally, I don't know that that's the wrong place to put the finance director. It's a department in name only, but it's a fund that those types of people are in. So, but it doesn't really matter to me.
Now, you could argue to the finance director, because they're paying bills for the general fund, the water, and sewer, and fire, maybe percent should go to each one,
Good.
but we could, I think, in light of that, we need to make things as simple as possible. So I'd recommend that we not take 50% out of the city clerk's budget, but just put 100% in general government.
I would agree
Just
with
show it
that.
all at once.
Right, and then if you feel that that person needs their own department and their own expenses, that's next year's budget.
Yeah, because that could be where some of the people who do bookkeeping and accounting, the different departments, we could put them all in that, under one person for finance, or keep it spread out to reflect, like Sherry does water and sewer billing, I think. And so that's just, that reflects their true workload. Yeah,
I'm okay with general government 100%.
yeah, me too.
Okay.
That'd be the first time.
We don't have to vote on it, just, yeah.
We'll just do it.
Yeah. Okay,
That's all that I have.
all right. If there's nothing else, I'm gonna go ahead and close this. Our goal will be we really need to get whatever deductions or add-ons that we haven't talked about today that come up after this meeting to Mel over the next 5 or 10 days and get this all put together right. Do I have a motion to close this meeting?
Have a motion to
Oh,
close.
make
excuse
one
me.
comment before you close. This is my 21st budget to go through. So I've looked at 20 others, listened to all of this, and I want to congratulate y'all for asking questions that have never been asked in the previous 20 years about some of these items that should have been asked. You are taking on a very large task by asking those questions. I'm not sure that it's too much at this one time, but I commend you for asking these questions. I hope you continue to ask these questions. And it's a lot to do, but I urge you to have many more workshops between now and the final budget deadline, because you've got a lot to tackle here, but you're on the right road, at least in my opinion, by asking about some of these funds. So please keep doing that.
If I could add to that then, Tammy was kind enough to provide us with a budget calendar so that we all know what is expected of us as we go forward. And after tonight's meeting, of course, August the 5th, we'll have to get the DR 420 in, which gives the tentative millage rate to the Bay County property appraisers. But also we schedule an August the 26th third budget workshop if needed, and I think it's needed because once we make all these changes, you need to have another meeting to kind of go over that so we're all on the same page. Once that is complete, we have to have our 2 required budget hearings. That'll be on September the 5th at 6 p.m. and September the 19th at 6 p.m. Now, these are the meetings that were required by state law to have it after 5 o'clock. In the past, we've had it at 5:01, but I think we kept it at 6 o'clock in interest of giving the citizens time, once they finish their jobs during the day, to get here by 6.
Yeah, I personally would like to, if we know that on the 5th, we have to turn our information by the 5th, right?
Correct.
So then we're gonna wait till the 26th to have our next budget meeting. I think we might be able to fit something in a little sooner than that. And
Sure.
I think we probably have a need for that.
Okay.
So, Mel, the only question I want to clarify, so we're having a special meeting right after this to set the rate.
Correct.
Correct.
So we're gonna actually have to have another meeting on the 5th?
No, not at all.
Okay, so
That's just something that we have to do as required by law.
That's just a due date that they have to.
Yeah, must return, okay, with public hearing date, adopt a tenant, okay. So that is not, what we do tonight is gonna take care of that.
Yeah, Tammy, thank you. This is a good start from, we talked about getting a list.
So when do we have to have our final millage rate in September 19th or? is it
Around the 5th,
Well, the 5th is just the tentative one.
That's
tentative.
September 5th and 19th are our 2 public hearings. And the adoption at the 19th is when the final kick at the cat is. I apologize to cat owners.
all right. Have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.